What if I told you that stupidity isn't just a lack of intelligence, but something far more dangerous? A force that can twist even brilliant minds into weapons of destruction? What if the true threat to our world isn't evil people doing evil things, but regular people who have simply stopped thinking critically? Imagine this. A brilliant scientist with multiple degrees starts spreading conspiracy theories. A kind-hearted teacher begins supporting harmful beliefs. A caring parent makes choices that put their children in danger. These aren't monsters or villains. They're smart, well-intentioned individuals who've unknowingly fallen prey to something Dietrich Bonhoeffer called the power of stupidity. And here's what's truly terrifying. It's not just happening to other people, it's happening to people like you, like me. This isn't just abstract philosophy, it's a real-world psychological phenomenon that's unfolding around us every day. Back in 1961, Stanley Milgram ran his now infamous obedience experiments at Yale University. Regular people, under the instruction of an authority figure, were told to administer what they thought were increasingly painful electric shocks to another person. Even as the victim screamed in agony, 65% of participants followed orders, believing they might be delivering lethal shocks. These weren't cruel or deranged individuals. They were normal citizens who had, for a moment, relinquished their moral compass. And this, Bonhoeffer realized during his time in Nazi Germany, is exactly what happens when stupidity takes hold of the human mind. It's not always a matter of intelligence. It's about surrendering our ability to think for ourselves. But before we explore this unsettling theory further, I want you to ask yourself something. Have you ever believed something just because everyone else around you did? Hold that thought as we dive into one of the most haunting insights into human nature ever conceived. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wasn't a philosopher locked away in an ivory tower. He was a German Lutheran pastor and theologian who lived through the Nazi regime. Born in 1906 to an intellectually distinguished family, his father a leading psychiatrist, Bonhoeffer grew up with a deep faith in education and rational debate. Yet as Hitler's influence spread, Bonhoeffer witnessed a horrifying transformation. Educated citizens, religious leaders, respected professionals, people who should have known better, began supporting ideologies and actions that directly contradicted their values. These weren't naive masses deceived by clever propaganda. They were intelligent individuals who willingly gave up their critical thinking. From his prison cell in 1943, after being arrested for his involvement in a plot to assassinate Hitler, Bonhoeffer penned a chilling observation. Stupidity, he wrote, isn't a simple mental deficiency. It's a dangerous social condition. He warned, stupidity believes it's doing good. That belief makes it nearly impossible to correct. And that, Bonhoeffer argued, is what makes it so powerful and so frightening. What Bonhoeffer understood was that stupidity isn't just about individuals making bad choices. It's about systems that discourage independent thought. Malicious people often know they're doing wrong, and that awareness leads to guilt or eventual breakdown. But when someone believes they're doing good, even while spreading harm, they become impervious to logic or correction. This isn't a glitch. It's the intended result of social and political systems that thrive when people stop asking questions. Those in power don't have to silence dissent. They just have to make critical thinking exhausting and inconvenient. When Bonhoeffer used the word stupidity, he wasn't talking about people with low IQs or poor education. He meant something far more subtle, what today we might label as functional stupidity or willful ignorance. In his prison writings, he noted that interacting with such individuals felt like speaking not to a person, but to slogans and sound bites that had taken over their minds. His insight was revolutionary. Stupidity often stems from external pressures, not internal failings. It arises when thinking independently becomes too costly. And the world we live in today, flooded with information, burdened by economic stress, and addicted to distraction, only amplifies this effect. Our current systems are designed to discourage deep thinking. Social media platforms profit when users react emotionally, not thoughtfully. News organizations gain more traction from outrage than nuance. Politicians win support with catchy slogans, not complex ideas. When people are overworked, overwhelmed, and constantly stimulated, deep thought feels like a luxury they can't afford. Economists call this rational ignorance, the idea that it's more efficient to remain uninformed than to expend energy understanding complicated issues. But collectively, this leads to systemic irrationality, the very thing Bonhoeffer witnessed in 1930s Germany. Cognitive science backs this up. Leon Festinger's research on cognitive dissonance in the 1950s showed how the human brain resists information that challenges deeply held beliefs. This tendency becomes stronger under stress, insecurity, or fear, the exact conditions produced by modern life. Bonhoeffer wrote that stupidity isn't a psychological defect, it's a sociological one. He observed how people in groups would abandon their reasoning in favor of collective beliefs. This was decades ahead of its time, and it aligns perfectly with Solomon Asch's conformity experiments, where 75% of participants knowingly gave wrong answers just to fit in with a group. Fast forward to today, and our digital ecosystems make this even worse. Social media algorithms create echo chambers that reinforce existing beliefs. A 2018 MIT study found that false information spreads 6 times faster than truth, because lies are often more emotionally satisfying. When people share misinformation that aligns with their worldview, they're rewarded with likes, shares, and validation. Algorithms then feed them more of the same, pulling them deeper into their bubble. This isn't just digital design, it's psychological manipulation at scale. Throughout history, we've seen this dynamic repeat. The Salem witch trials weren't fueled by malevolence, but by frightened communities who truly believed they were doing the right thing. The Red Scare wasn't powered by villains, but by citizens who thought they were defending democracy. So how do we resist? Bonhoeffer believed it starts with what he called costly grace, the courage to think independently even when it's difficult, dangerous, or isolating. Today we call this intellectual humility, the willingness to admit when we might be wrong. That means intentionally seeking out opposing viewpoints, not to weaken our beliefs, but to strengthen them through scrutiny. Here are a few practices that serve as daily defenses against intellectual surrender. First, create intellectual friction. Each week, engage with thoughtful perspectives that challenge your views, not to change your mind, but to pressure test your convictions. Second, embrace productive doubt. When you feel overly certain, ask, what evidence could change my mind? If the answer is nothing, you may be slipping into dogma. Third, pause before sharing. Take just 60 seconds to verify content before reposting. That moment of reflection can disrupt the algorithm's grip. Fourth, learn to say, I don't know. In a world obsessed with hot takes and quick opinions, genuine uncertainty is a rare and powerful act of honesty. But personal habits aren't enough. We also need structural reforms. Platforms must disclose how algorithms shape content. Schools must prioritize media literacy. We need public policies that support critical thinking by reducing the economic stress that makes deep thought difficult. Bonhoeffer's ideas were prescient, but today's threats go far beyond what he could have imagined. We're no longer just battling propaganda from a state. We're fighting billion-dollar algorithms and soon AI-generated deepfakes that exploit our brain's every vulnerability. Our brains evolved for survival, not truth. They're built to prioritize speed, emotional comfort, and familiar beliefs. That worked in the wild, but in the age of digital manipulation, it makes us dangerously susceptible to engineered ignorance. Even highly educated professionals fell into misinformation traps during COVID-19. Engineers, doctors, and lawyers shared debunked theories, not because they lacked intelligence, but because their independent thinking collapsed under pressure. Bonhoeffer paid the ultimate price for refusing to conform. He was executed just weeks before Nazi Germany fell. His final words, "This is the end. For me, the beginning of life." His legacy isn't just political, it's intellectual. He died defending the right and the responsibility to think. When conformity feels comfortable, when truth feels costly, when groupthink feels safe, that's when Bonhoeffer's warning is most urgent. The ability to think independently isn't about being smarter. It's about choosing curiosity over certainty, truth over convenience, humility over pride. Critical thinking isn't heroic, it's human. But in a world designed to reward intellectual laziness, it becomes a radical act. The tragic irony is that giving up thinking often feels like freedom. But the moment we stop questioning, we stop growing. Bonhoeffer's theory reminds us that remaining human requires effort, discomfort, and vigilance. So here's the hard truth. None of us are immune to functional stupidity. In fact, the more certain we are of our own immunity, the more vulnerable we become. If stupidity is partly chosen, it can be unchosen. If it's partly systemic, those systems can be reimagined. The fight for intellectual freedom isn't over, and it won't be won by accident. Just like physical fitness requires regular exercise, intellectual strength demands mental training. Make critical thinking a habit. Question your assumptions. Embrace the discomfort of not knowing. The next time you're absolutely sure about something, take a moment. Ask yourself, have I tested this belief? Have I welcomed challenge? Or am I clinging to comfort? Bonhoeffer's theory is terrifying precisely because it's true. But buried in that truth is a spark of hope. If we can recognize the conditions that create functional stupidity, we can resist them. If we can cultivate the courage to keep thinking, especially when it's hard, we can keep our humanity intact. So here's your challenge. This week, take one belief you hold deeply and explore the best arguments against it. Not to torture yourself, but to strengthen your intellectual muscles. If your belief survives, great. If not, you've grown. Because in a world that profits from our mindless surrender, the simple act of thoughtful reflection is the most powerful form of resistance. And remember, every time you choose to think carefully, to stay curious, to pause instead of react, you're not just protecting your mind, you're defending the very possibility of wisdom in an age of engineered ignorance. So tell me, what belief are you brave enough to question this week? If this message resonated with your spirit, consider sharing it. Someone out there might be carrying the same questions, the same doubts, the same quiet hope, and your sharing might be the reminder they need. Stay true, stay kind, stay you. For more insights on philosophy, personal growth, and the art of clear thinking, subscribe and turn on notifications. Flow through life and embrace the journey of thought with curiosity and insight. Seek truth, seek wisdom, and remember to question everything. Until next time, stay curious.